you better competing for a listing or a buyer consult when you have 30 or 40 people also competing against you? Or are you better off competing with when you have maybe one or potentially even zero people to compete against? Welcome back to another edition of the Agent Investor Weekly Live Stream. We do these live streams every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and they're always based on the feedback that agents give me, both in the Facebook group, face-to-face, in person, and on some weekly coaching sessions. So invariably, almost every single week, I get asked, how do you find great deals? And there is no doubt that there is only two ways to find great deals in this world. The first one is to be able to spend money. And when I tell people how much it cost us to get a deal, most of the time they end up deciding that they don't want to commit to a monthly marketing budget. So on average right now, and as of this recording, August 2023, it costs us on average about $15,000 in marketing dollars in order to get a deal. And by doing things like pay-per-click, mailers, and things like that. So for most people that can't commit to a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month marketing budget, we end up invariably talking about how to get deals without spending a bunch of money, which is how most people get started. Most people don't get started having a huge marketing budget. And even if you could have a big marketing budget, in a lot of cases out of the gate, it usually doesn't make sense, because even just having a big marketing budget doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a deal. Okay, so today's focus is going to be, how do you find deals if you don't have a bunch of money? And for most people, when we talk about finding a deal, you want to make sure that you're identifying what exactly is the avatar of the deal that you want. And I ask people this on coaching calls and privately all the time. If you can't answer that question, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually take your next step. But you want to be able to know, like, literally, how big is the house you're going to buy? What city is it located? How many beds? How many baths? What's the value of it? And then start going specifically after that type of deal. Okay, so let's assume that you do know at this point exactly what that deal looks like, because that's not going to be the topic today. Today, we're going to talk about how do you actually find those deals without having a marketing budget, and how do you do it consistently so that you hit your goals. And so today, I'm going to talk about the ways to find deals without spending a bunch of money that are most common. And this is going to cover pretty much how 99% of people define deals, find them. But before I do that, I just do want to talk really quickly about the multiple listing service and about why I always preach that deals need to be off market. I've been talking about this for over 10 years, and no matter what I say, there's always going to be somebody each and every week that talks about getting deals on the multiple listing service. And I want to be very clear with what my position is before anybody really takes action on this. So the reason I don't like the multiple listing service isn't because it's actually 100% impossible to get a deal on the MLS. It's that it is hard to be consistently good at getting deals. There's a difference between getting a deal once in a while versus consistently getting deals on a week-to-week basis. In my company, on average, we buy 2 to 3 properties per week. I know what I need to do to get off-market deals, to get seller appointments, to then generate off-market deals each and every week. If I were to go and try to get properties on the MLS, my numbers would be very, very inconsistent. So the reason I don't like the MLS is because it's very, very hard and it's hard to be, consistent with getting a certain amount of deal flow. And then by definition, you're competing with just a much larger segment of people. Because once that button is clicked, once it hits the MLS, once the thing syndicates to every website that's out there, anybody who's anybody could look at a property and put an offering on it. Whereas if the property is off market, the amount of people that are actually going to meet with that seller, talk to that seller, is probably literally 1% or less of the amount of people who are going to look at a deal once it hits the multiple listing service. So if you're out there and you're out there bidding on homes that are on the multiple listing service, the amount of competition that you have go way up. And again, to be, a successful business person, where are you better competing? Are you better competing for a listing or a buyer consult when you have 30 or 40 people also competing against you? Or are you better off competing with when you have maybe one or potentially even 0 people to compete against? And I think the answer is very clear. Now, I just wanted to say that little piece about the multiple listing service only because I do get people when I say you can't get deals on the MLS. Somebody will reach out to me once a month and say, hey, Tom, look, you're wrong. I did get a deal on the MLS. And I'll always say, you could maybe sometimes sporadically get a deal on the MLS, but I don't like to build my business on maybe, sometimes sporadically, I'm going to make money. So again, that's the reason why I'm a big advocate of getting deals off of the multiple listing service and going direct to seller. So today I'm going to talk about the ways that you can do that in 2023. I'm going to talk about, the pros and cons, because even when you get a deal off market, there are pros and cons to getting deals off market. And of course, no doubt, guys, this is completely live. So we've got a good amount of people that are tuned in right now. If you guys do at any point have questions, type them into the comment section. I'll address them on the fly as they kind of come in. Okay. All right, guys. So starting out, I'm going to talk about one way to get a deal off market, which is auctions. So I'm going to talk about the pros, the cons, and each way of getting these deals off market. So of course, when a seller is not paying their mortgage, they get behind on their mortgage. At some point, if the seller doesn't get caught up, if they don't do a loan modification, if they don't sell their property, that the bank's only repercussion, or that lender only repercussion, is to auction the property. And most of the times, these auctions, they're held publicly. And in my state, in Massachusetts, they're always held at the actual property. So there's a bunch of different websites that you can go on, like Town Auction as an example, Commonwealth Auction as an example. There are a ton of auction websites, and if you just put into Google auction websites in your state, they will come up. And so what ends up happening is there's going to be an auction date. And I'm going to tell you about some of the pros, some of the cons about auctions. So the first thing is, at auction properties, you're not allowed to get in before you actually make a bid on the house. Yes, that's right. You can't actually see the inside of the property that you're buying before you make a bid. Okay? So you have to do all of your homework ahead of time. And it's going to tell you on the website, hey, the auction is Tuesday at 10 o'clock. You're going to show up to that auction. And you're also going to have to be willing to give a non-refundable deposit. Okay, they're typically $5,000 in Mass, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. They can be sometimes $10,000. They can sometimes be more than that. But just know that if you come and you bring that check and you bid on that property, if you do not follow through, if you do not end up buying that property and you win that bid, you're going to lose that deposit. So some of the cons about auctions. First and foremost, they are public, meaning that anybody in the world can go on these websites, know when a property is going to be auctioned, and they can show up. So it's not uncommon, if you show up to an auction, that you might see 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 people, depending on how popular the auction is. And again, Why are we trying to get deals off market? We're trying to limit our competition. But having said that, even though if you look around and you see 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 people, that's still way less people that are going to be out bidding on a home if it was on the multiple listing service. So you're going to show up, you're going to be standing there, you're going to be bidding and competing against 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 people. Another negative of auctions is that they may be occupied. So depending on what state you live in, that could potentially be either a small problem or a huge problem. In Massachusetts, it's typically a pretty big problem if you're buying a property and somebody's living in it, especially if it's a single family. So you may end up winning the bid and having to buy a home with the old owner in it, and then you may have to end up evicting that old owner or that tenant. Okay? So another negative of auctions is that probably 2/3 of them end up opening at a bid that's higher than what an investor would want to pay. So let's just say, for example, you go to an auction with a property that would be worth $500,000 all fixed up. And let's say that you're going to go there, you're going to bid $350,000. 2/3 of the time, it's going to open up at a bid at maybe $400,000 or $450,000 or maybe even $500,000. So when that happens, you've done your homework, you've done your research, you've driven out to the property, you've made a bid, you're ready to make a bid, and you just lose that time because it's not even a property that's going to end up getting sold. So why does that happen? Well, it can happen for many reasons, but there are some banks that basically are willing to take these properties back and then just sell them directly on the multiple listing service, okay? Another negative about auctions is that in a lot of cases, they don't close on time. Now, you're going to sign a contract when you actually win that bid that's basically going to say, hey, you need to close on this property in a month, in 30 days. But the bank may not be ready. The title may not be ready. There could be issues with the title. They could go on for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. And you have to be ready, willing, and able when the bank is ready to sell it. So you may have to close quickly, or you may have to actually take a long time to close. So I've said a lot of negatives about the auctions, but what are some of the positives? I think the biggest positive about attending and bidding on an auction is it's over right then and there. You know right then and there, you either got the property or you didn't. There's no sales process involved. In fact, there's no sales techniques involved. You don't need to learn how to, build rapport. You don't need to learn how to negotiate with a seller. You're just out there, you're bidding, you either win or you lose. The other good thing about auctions is that they're, even in this market, they're fairly plentiful. You could easily spend 20 or 30 or 40 hours a week at auctions, bidding each and every day. Now, you may need to go to 20 or 30 or 40 per week in order to get a deal, but they're going to be plentiful. They're always available, and they're always around. One other negative before I switch into another form of getting off-market deals related to auctions that's kind of a little bit of a negative is that you're not going to have necessarily a choice all the time about where you can buy those properties. So you may, want to buy a property in Allenstown, as an example. And there may be no auctions in Allenstown even in the next 90 days. So depending on where you want to buy, depending on where you're geographically located, you tend with auctions to need to be a little bit more geographically flexible on the properties that you buy. By the way, if there are any questions about auctions at all, again, this is live. Type them into the comment section. I'm happy to answer any questions at all related to auctions. All right. So the next one up, then I'm going to talk about the pros, the cons, etc., are agent relationships. And most of the people that are on here are agents. And I've done multiple training sessions on getting deals from other agents. I think it's actually one of the best ways, the best methods in order to get deals. Let's talk about some of the cons about getting deals from agents. First and foremost, you're going to have to talk to a lot of agents to even get some deals sent to you. You guys know I've got a pretty big reach. No, I'm not, Grant Cardone, but I've got a pretty good agent reach. I've got 365 agents in my office. I do training sessions. I've got, a Facebook group with 11,000 agents in it. And even me, with all of that reach, still have to work hard to generate off-market deal flow from agents on a week-to-week basis. Agents in general don't come across off-market deals on a weekly basis. So you need a large group of agents that you are pretty much in front of, quite a bit, and you need to make sure that they remember you. So everybody here has been taught and trained on how to work their sphere of influence, how to make sure you're top of mind with your sphere of influence. It's really no different with working agent relationships. When an agent comes across a house that needs work or a seller that would like to trade money for convenience, you have to be the first person that they think about. Somebody did type in a question, and I told you guys I'd address them as they come in. What happens when you buy a property from auction, which is occupied, and you can't get access to do it before a smoke inspection? Great question. You may need to buy that property cash. So in order to get a smoke inspection, typically it's required if you're going to finance that deal, but it's not required if you're going to buy the property cash. So again, you're bringing up another potential negative of auctions. If you guys kind of haven't gotten the hint yet, I don't love auctions in general as a deal finding, platform. I think they can be okay, but I think they have more negatives than positives. But getting back to agent relationships, another negative is just that they take time. So if you decided today, hey, I'm going to build out, a huge list of agents that know me and like me and trust me and know that I'm an investor, know that I'm willing to, offer them a great potential deal, it's going to take time. Because again, getting back to my point that I made a couple minutes ago, agents don't come across great deals all the time. Agents do come across great deals consistently over a long period of time. Like if you talk to most agents and you say, hey, how many great investment opportunities have you come across in your career? They're going to say 5 or 10 or 20. But how many this year? Well, it could be 0, it could be 1, it could be 5, it could be 0 in the last 2 years. Okay. What I do like about agent relationships in general, what I like is that you're going to usually be the only investor in there in general. Some of my best deals that I've ever bought have been agent referrals. And typically it's because of the trust factor. So you're going to have an agent that that's going to go out and it's going to meet with a seller. The seller is going to express interest in selling their house either quickly or easily or not doing any repairs, or maybe they don't want people in their home. And that agent is going to make a warm referral to you as the investor to come in and make a fair offer. And a lot of times what I found with agent relationships in general is that as long as you're making a fair offer, it tends to not be as much of a bidding process. Okay. Another thing that I like about agent relationship referrals is that you can kind of build your network around where you want to get off-market deals. So of course, like if you were going to go into the MLS and say you wanted to buy property specifically in Reading, Massachusetts, as an example, you could look and you could say, give me a list of every single agent that listed a home, 2 homes in Reading, Massachusetts in the last 2 years. And you might pop up a list of 100 agents. And if you use that list, you would probably find most of the deals that flowed through those agents in the past couple of years. And most successful agents are selling year after year after year in the same towns because that's maybe where they grew up or where they live. So if you're looking, you can be a little bit more geographically focused with agent relationships. Somebody said it's actually required, the smoke required on all sales in Mass, but with cash sale can close without. Yes, exactly. So you can close without it, and you may have to close without it in Massachusetts if you win at auction. So continuing on with agent relationships, it's a matter of time, effort, energy, and it is definitely one of the best ways to do it. And I taught a class either last week or the week before on how to do it. And I want to continue on. If anybody has any questions on the agent relationship piece, type it into the chat box. The last thing I want to say about the agent relationship piece that's so important is the agents have to have a reason to send you the deal. So you probably all know about our agent partnership program that we have. So with my company, I make it really attractive for an agent to send me a deal. And the way that it works for us, not saying that you have to copy us, but you could potentially do it like us if you wanted to, is that the way that we do it is if an agent sends us a deal, we will buy the property, put up our money, do the renovation, and then split the profit 50-50. So when an agent finds an off-market deal that we could potentially flip, they will make half of whatever we make, which on average is $60,000. So in terms of people remembering you, it has to be something to me that stands out. Almost everybody in the world, almost every investor in the world will give a listing back to an agent or say, hey, I'm not going to co-broke it up front, which can sometimes be enough to get that deal. But for me, I wanted to make it so attractive that I would never be forgotten. And I also want to make it so attractive that even if they know another investor, that my offering is going to be a lot better. So again, any questions on the agent relationship thing, type them into the comment section, and I'm going to move on. All right, so let's talk next about prospecting. So when people think about finding off-market deals, most of the time what they think about is prospecting. And I'm defining prospecting as either cold calling or door knocking or cold texting. And when I think about prospecting, when I think about prospecting, I think about the fact that you can go directly after the specific type of property that you want. And that is probably the number one benefit that you have with prospecting. Meaning, for example, if you want to go after 2 families in Woburn, Massachusetts, and you cold call or cold text or door knock, you can guarantee that any lead you're going to get is going to be a 2-family in Woburn. Now compare that to auctions or compare that to agent relationships. You have not a lot of control over targeting the exact type of property that you want. The other great thing about prospecting in general, whether it's cold calling, cold texting, or door knocking, is that you're the one that's on the offensive. Meaning you can have a goal every single week to make X amount of calls, send X amount of text messages, knock X amount of doors. And there's a formula that you can literally calculate out to say, hey, if I knock on X amount of doors, I'm going to get Y amount of appointments, and then I'm going to get Z amount of deals. As again, compare that to the opposite. Compare it to auctions, and you say, oh, I want a 2-family in Woburn, Massachusetts. Well, there may be no auctions this week for that. Or compare it to agent relationships. You may never get a lead that week from an agent relationship. Okay, so let's talk quickly about prospecting. I'm going to say this, and you guys know, if you follow me, I'm as honest with people as I possibly can be. Prospecting is done by few and far between agents and investors. Few and far between people will actually consistently cold call or cold text or door knock. I give massive credit to the people who do. It's very difficult. It takes discipline, daily discipline. I think it's phenomenal when people do it. But one question I would always ask anybody that's thinking about doing it is, will you do it 5 days a week for 2 or 3 hours a day? Not like, will you do it once in a while? Will I do it once a month? Will I treat it like a gym membership where I show up in January and then I'm already out by January 15th? Like, no, it can't be that. Don't even attempt to do it. Don't attempt to cold call. Don't attempt to door knock. Don't attempt to cold text message unless you're going to do it 5 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day. Have an honest conversation with yourself. Like, am I going to do this? Can I see myself doing it? Am I the type of person that's going to be disciplined enough to do it? If the answer is no, cross it off your list. Because if you're not going to do it, it's not going to work. And I've actually seen more people have really bad results because they kind of hang on to the fact that they're going to do prospecting for a long period of time. I've seen people hang on to like the fact that they're going to do prospecting for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And they're still talking about the prospecting that they're going to do someday. And then during that time, they could have spent that doing other things. They could have been going to auctions. They could have been building agent relationships. They could be doing other things. So just keep that in mind. If you say, hey, I'm going to door knock, I'm going to cold call, I'm going to cold text, whatever the prospecting method is, like, be prepared to do it every day. And if you can't get yourself to do it every day, be like, hey, I just can't do it. So in terms of the benefits we already talked about, you can get very, very detailed. You can run a list. You can say, hey, I'm only going to target this type of property with this much equity. And you can do it on a consistent basis, and you're fully in control. So there's huge positives to it. But the big negative that I already hit on is just the fact that it's hard. It's going to be the hardest out of all the things that we talked about. And it's going to be the one where some people just can't get themselves to do it. Okay. Any questions on prospecting, tap into the comment section before I move on and go to SOI. So getting great deals from your sphere of influence in general is something that I believe that each and every agent should be doing. If you're already talking to friends and family and you're working your SOI and you're building your database each and every day, there is no doubt that everybody in your database should know that you're also an investor. It's interesting because I had an event 2 weeks ago and I asked a room full of 50 people. I said, hey, how many people in this room of 50 have already told their sphere of influence that they're an investor? And one person raised their hand, straight up. The second person half raised their hand. So 48 and a half people haven't even thought about telling their sphere of influence that they're an investor, that they buy properties, which is hurting them in 2 categories. Category number 1 is if you are an investor and your clients know that you're an investor, you have an opportunity to help your clients invest. So if you're any of your clients, if you have a database of 100, 200, 300 people, if you can convert any of them into buy and hold investors, into flippers, you're going to automatically generate more transactions year to year. There are agents who have their entire practice built on the fact that they help investors make money, right? So that's number 1 reason. Number 2 reason is you want to make sure that everybody in your sphere of influence knows that you're consistently out there looking for deals. And it's interesting because we go on about 100 face-to-face seller appointments a week, off market to buy their houses for flipping. Every one of those appointments goes like this. Yeah, I'm thinking about meeting with my friend who's an agent after you, but I want to know what you can offer first. So out of all of those 100 appointments a week, each and every one, they do not think that their agent, their friend, their cousin, their college roommate has the ability to produce a cash offer, which means that every single cash offer deal that we do, we are theoretically taking that deal from an agent who, if they had the ability to give a cash offer, could have made that same offer, and that client would have rather gotten that offer from their friend. Now, why do they call us first? Well, they call us first because they want to see what a cash, no contingency, no agent fee, no brokerage fee looks like. They know when they call their agent, their friend, it's going to be 4 or 5 or 6%, but they want to see what we will pay before that. So in terms of like working your SOI, the huge benefit is that it shouldn't take you much more time than it's already taking you, right? So are you using your social media to tell your friends and your family that you're an investor? Are you weaving that into your emails or into your mailers or into your day-to-day conversations? The other huge benefit for agents is that it's going to increase the business that you do anyways. It's going to make your SOI invest more, right? Because if you're investing, people in your SOI are going to say, oh, I wonder why Tom is investing. Maybe I should think about investing, or I've thought about investing. I didn't even know Tom could help me. So you're going to get more retail deals, but then you're also going to get, more investment deals as well. And you're going to get investment deals that you wouldn't have even gotten referred, because a lot of people that are in your sphere of influence don't even know that you have the ability to potentially make a cash offer. Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't have the money, or I don't have the construction expertise to make a cash offer. That's patently false. If you're working directly with us, we will not only make the offer and split the profits with you, we will also go on the appointment with you. Powerful stuff. There is nobody who's listening to this right now who doesn't have the ability to make a cash offer, because we will make it for you. We will actually calculate the offer. We will go on the appointment. We will make the offer. And if we get the deal, we'll split the profits with you 50-50. What are the negatives of SOI marketing to get off-market deals? The biggest negative, like SOI marketing for agents to get off-market deals, to me is a no-brainer. But the biggest negative, and it is a real negative, is there is only going to be so many deals that you can get on a month-to-month basis, right? There's only going to be so many that your SOI will produce. Unless you're taking a very passive approach to investing, which some people might be doing. If you're taking a very passive approach to investing, which is totally fine, you're not going to produce 10 or 15 or 20 great deals per year from your SOI. It's usually SOI plus one of the other methods. So again, guys, we talked about auctions. We talked about agent relationships. We talked about prospecting. We talked about working your SOI. Anthony said, what is the title of the training video for agent relationships? I don't know. If you search down the Agent Investor Facebook group, you'll see a video within the past couple of weeks, and it will be titled in a way that you'll definitely know, what we're talking about. But I want to pause here for a second just to see if there are any questions on any of the off-market stuff that we've talked about, whether it's auctions or agent relationships or prospecting or SOI. Type the comments into the comment section. I do want to say one other thing about this, though, which is that you need to have measurable results every week. And a lot of the conversation from today that I'm talking about stems from individual conversations that I have every single week with people that are in my Inner Circle coaching program. So a lot of times I will ask somebody, they'll tell me what they're doing or how they're going to get deals, and then I'll ask them for what their scorecard is. And a lot of people don't have one. They don't know how many calls they're supposed to make, how many agents they're supposed to talk to, how many Facebook posts they're supposed to do. If you do not know the answer to that question, it's going to be almost impossible for you to have a lot of success, because you'll just be guessing. So if you want to take, some of the guesswork out of the stuff, I would recommend, if you haven't done so already, if you're not in the Inner Circle, to register for a call at www.agentinvestorinnercircle.com. I'm going to put it into the chat section. Actually, I'll just put it right on the screen. Let me see if I can put this up here, because if you don't have a really good plan on what you should be doing each and every week, it's going to be hard for you to have success. So what I do for people that are not yet in the inner circle, but maybe considering it and maybe want to have a little bit more of a one-on-one conversation with me is jump on one of these calls at www.agentinvestorinnercircle.com. And I'll talk to you directly about like where you're specifically at with your real estate investing, where you want to be 3 to 5 years into the future, and then come up with a plan on the call on how to get there with like a day-to-day breakdown of exactly what you should be doing and what your scorecard should look like. So again, if you're interested, the call is completely free, www.agentinvestorinnercircle.com. When you jump on one of those calls with me, I'm going to spend 95% of the time talking about like how I can help you, like directly on that call. It's basically a free consulting session where I go into your individual specifics and make some recommendations. And then I'm going to talk for 2 minutes on the benefits of joining the inner circle and, leave it open to you if you're, open to considering that. It's definitely not a sales pitch in terms of the call. It's 99% content. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about joining the inner circle if you're interested, but you can do that for free at www.agentinvestorinnercircle.com. I don't have a ton of availability left for the next few weeks because I've got a ton of kid stuff before the summer ends. So I've got a few slots left. If you are like serious about jumping on a call, I would recommend doing that right now and booking that right now at www.agentinvestorinnercircle.com so that I can help you out. And I'll bring it back, to the chat to see if anybody has anything else. But I think more than anything else, like if you're going to be an investor, you need to be consistently getting off-market deals, and you need to be able to pick one of the strategies that we mentioned today. There are a lot of details that go behind all of these strategies. Today was just meant to kind of be a high-level overview so that you guys could get, a good understanding of what they might look like, what the pros are, what the cons are. But the best thing to do if you're not 100% sure what to do next is to jump on that call at www.agentinvestorinnercircle.com. Before we go, I'm just going to take one more quick look at the chat box, but I also want to ask, what should the topic for next week's live stream be? Do me a favor, type into the chat box. I'm just curious what you guys are thinking, what you specifically need help with, because I want to know what the next Tuesday at 11 o'clock training session should be. So if you're live, if you're on here, be selfish, type into the chat box like what you specifically need the most help with, and I'll take a look to see like what the responses are, and I'll come up with the topic for next week. So do me a favor, I'm going to give you guys like another minute. If you are live, just type that into the comment section, whatever topic you need help with moving forward, just so I can get an understanding of what I can help you guys with. And if there is any other thing that I can do for anyone in the meantime, you all know how to reach me. But the best thing to do is to go to that www.agentinvestorinnercircle.com.